Okay, let's move on to our next design, which will be our authentication. So we double click on authentication here. We're going to split mode, and once again we remove this guy, change this to constraint layout, and yeah. So our authentication page will be simple as well. We are just going to add, let's see, a number of buttons, an image, and I don't think we'll be doing a lot on that page. Yeah, so let's get started. Once again, I would like to add my guidelines. So let me just copy and paste them. Oh, God bless, copy and paste. I think you should try it sometime. And then also, I want to add a little fix to this button here. Let me give it a little margin to the top. Of spacing, let's say 32. Yeah, so to move down a little. Yeah. And I'll also add a margin to the top for the image. It's too close to the button, so I'll also give it a margin to the top of spacing 64, probably. Let me see. Yeah, so that we can have proper spacing between them. And yeah. And also, let me just reduce the spacing here to be none, so that the button stays dynamic like this. Okay, now let me just paste this here, and then I'll add this app to fix the error. Okay, good. So we can get started with our design. So first, I'm going to have an image in the background. Yeah, I'm going to add an image to the background. So we're going to use one of the other images as well. So let me just start here. An image view of, let's say, none again, and the height also none. And I'm going to set the source of the image to be world. Let's pick 2 in this case, and then I'm going to set the start to be at the end of the left, and then the end to be at the start of the right, and the top at the bottom of the top, and then the bottom at bottom at the top of bottom. Good. Okay, so I think I should probably, let me just call it ID logo once again, or background image. I should probably increase the buttons, I think 128, or probably 256. Yeah, 256 is nice. We only need this guideline for the image, by the way, so it is not too important at this point. Okay, moving on. You know what? I think the spacing to the left, to the right hand side, I can reduce this to 32. Yeah, so that it will be more, closer to the right hand side as compared to the left. Okay, so I'm going to add a linear layout for the preceding parts. So we have match. The width is going to match the parent width, and then the height is also going to match the parent's height. And I'll set the orientation to be vertical, and I'll set a weight sum of 7. Okay. I'll give it an ID of container, and then I'm going to set 2 constraint layouts here. So one is going to match the width of the parent, and then have a 0 height, but I'll set a weight of 4. Yeah. So let me just add a background color so that you can see what's going on. So Android, let's just say black. Yeah, so it's covering 4/7 of the screen, and then the other part will take the 3/7, if that makes sense. Okay, so let me just remove this background from here, and yeah. Okay, so let me just create the other parts while we're at it, and then this is going to take the rest, which is 3. Yeah. Okay, so for the first part, we are going to include a text, a description again, and already we have the image there. So just those 2, right? So let's just add them. Okay. Yeah. So let's add a text here. So it's going to have again 0 dp here, and wrap content there. And we are going to give it the text of the application's long name, and we'll give it the text appearance of headline 4 once again. And yeah, so in this instance, I'm not going to use guidelines here. I think what I can do is I can set paddings here, horizontal padding of maybe spacing 64. Okay, 64 is a bit too much. Let's say 32. Yeah, 32. 48. Let's see. Okay. And then, yeah. So the top will be at the top of the parent, and then start will be at the start of the parent, and will be at the end of the parent, so that we have no errors here. And then let me set a padding at the top here. Padding at the top, the spacing again 128. 128. 64. Okay, 64 looks fine. So aside using guidelines, you can also use paddings, but just to make things more consistent, I prefer using the guidelines, right? So let me just make a duplicate of this, and then I'll set this to be one of the descriptions. And once again, we set this to be a body text. And then the top, let me just give this an ID. So we have header app name. So we set the top to be at the bottom of header app name. And then we'll give this a vertical padding of spacing large. Okay, good. And okay, let me just give this an idea of. So we have app header app description. Okay, so we're going to create a different description for this now. So I'm going to call this description 3. And what I'm going to write is discover, if I could spell discover the world's top, I don't always mix this, the world's top products, and right at the comfort of your home. Yeah, don't worry, I just made that up. So welcome loop authentication. Yeah, so we have 3. Good. Okay, not bad, except for the fact that the text is being obscured by the image, but we'll work on that. Okay, so that is okay for the top part, and then we move to the bottom part. So we're going to have, for this very part, I think I'll need my guidelines. I'll need my guidelines. So let me just copy some of them from the welcome page again. So I'll need, will I need all 4 of them? No, I just think I'll need the vertical ones. So left and right. And I will have some errors because I'm using the same IDs within the same XML file. So I have to change this to be of, let's say button. Good. So I have my guidelines here. So I'm going to use these guidelines to create a button side, and I'm going to have a material button again of none, and then I'll have wrap content, of course. So I'll give this an ID of, so I'm going to include some social logins. Yeah, so I'll just call it Twitter button, and I'll set the start to be at the end of the button left, and I'll set the end to be at the start of our button right. Good. Yeah, so that it can span across the screen. And then we also set the text to be sign in with Twitter. Good. And I think it's missing one more constraint. So I'll set the top to be at the bottom of the parent. Sorry, the top to be at the top of the parent. So top at the top of the parent. Okay, so let's save this. Sign in with Twitter. Yeah, and I'll also add an icon here. Icon. So I'll just use my right icon again. And I will need one more for our Google sign-in. So I'm going to call this Google button. Sorry about the sound earlier. I had a little issue with my system here, but I think I've resolved it. Okay, so the next thing is we're going to continue with another text here. So I'll just put a text right beneath this button here. So let me just fix this. So the top of this Google button will be at the bottom of the Twitter button. Yes, and I'll give it a little margin to the top of a spacing normal. which is 8 dp, and then I'm going to have a text here. Which is going to again have none, and then wrap content, and I'll set a vertical padding of spacing large, or instead of setting a vertical padding, let me just use a vertical margin. Okay, good. And I'll give it the text of or with email, and I'll set the text appearance, text or what's the text appearance going to be? Text appearance, let's say caption, and then I'll set the top to be at the bottom of the Google button, and the start to the end of the left vertical, and then the end to the start of the right vertical. And I'll give it an ID of email or email sign, email auth header, something like that. Okay. And let me just save this text again. Good. Let me align the text here at the center. And then instead of giving it, okay, let me just use the pattern. Yeah, this looks okay. And we set a little margin to the top of spacing large, so that they'll be separated. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to have two more buttons at the bottom here. So what I'm going to do is I'll pick the Google button and duplicate it without the icons. So I'll call this sign in, and I'll call the other one sign up. And I don't need these icons. And I'll call this sign in. So we'll save this resource as sign in. So email auth header. And then this, so yeah, this way it gets tricky. I'm going to set a style for this, to use a material outline style, and for some reason it disappears. Okay, so I'm going to set the left hand side, the start, to be at the end of this here, and then the end will be at the start of the sign up button. That's for the sign in. And also I'm going to use the start to be at the end of the sign in button, so that they'll share equal spaces here. And I'm going to change this text to be sign up. So sign up. Good. And I'm going to set a margin to the start of spacing normal. Sorry, normal or small. Yeah, so that we have a little space in there. I'm also going to set the margin to the end here. Spacing small. Good. This looks fine. Yeah, I think so. Okay. So for these buttons not to look too close together, what I'm going to do is I will let them rather have references to the parent and then give a margin to their ends instead. So this is what I mean. So I'm going to set a margin to the end of spacing x32, and then I'm going to remove, so I'm going to set the end to be at the end of the parent. That's for the sign up. Yes, so that it will cover enough spacing here. And then for the sign in, I'm going to set the start to be at the start of the parent, and I'm going to give it a margin to the start of spacing x32 as well. Good. So that will overlay a little outside there. Okay, so this is our authentication fragment. This is how it's going to look like. And yeah, there's, like a watermark here for just, you can edit it, do whatever you want to do with it actually. So this is just a creator description. I'm adding it to the main constraint layout just beneath the image. So it has the following properties, right? So I give a margin to the bottom of spacing large, give a vertical padding spacing large, and then the width is none, and an ID of creator description, and then text alignment center is using an overlying text appearance, and I'm constraining to the right and left vertical guidelines. So I'm just going to create this string here, go inside there, and we'll paste this here. So Kwabena Code Labs. So over here, I'm just going to change this to for YouTube. No, and we don't need this guy. Okay, so nope. Yeah. So created with love for my subscribers, obviously. Okay, so now we have this over here, but how do we preview this page? So what we are going to do is we'll enter into our welcome fragment, and then we set up a navigation for our button here. So inside on activity created, I'm going to find view by ID. Oh, okay, sorry. So on view created instead. So I'm going to call view.find view by ID, and I'm going to look for a material button here with an ID of r.id.get started, and I'm going to set an on-click listener here. Don't worry, I will remove this and make it a lot simpler as time goes on. So we'll be using view binding as time goes on. I'll remove all of this, get find view by ID and all those things. But for now, just to test, we are going to use our navigation controller. So we have an inbuilt extension for fragments that helps us to navigate between child fragments or children fragments. So we call on find nav controller like this, and then we navigate. So we call on the function navigate, and then we need to navigate to an action. So we use action welcome to authentication, right? This action here. This action is created as a result of this line that we drew here. See, for this is an action for us to navigate from the welcome page to the authentication page. When we go inside split mode, this action is described here. So we have welcome. So it uses the ID of the start destination and then the ID of the end destination to create the action. So this is what happens here. So we have action nav welcome to nav auth. So we are moving from the welcome to the authentication page. And then the destination, that means the end destination is what? The nav auth, which is the ID of the fragment we are moving to. Likewise, we have the same thing here. So we have welcome to the home, and then the destination will be our nav home. This is a convention that is actually used by the navigation components, and you can also use this to share data between the fragments. So what I'm going to do here is let's just run this. So when I tap on the get started, it's supposed to navigate me to the authentication page, right? That's what this function here is doing. Okay, so the app is running. So when I tap on this get started here, it sends me to this page, right, with all the design that we did. So let's properly align this image here. It doesn't look too nice. So what I'm going to do is, let me just here's the page. Okay, so the image, and let me give it a little margin to the top, spacing 64, like this, and then the bottom something, let me just reduce it a little. 128 is a bit too much for it. 64, yeah. Okay, then I think the top has to be reduced, or increased rather, to 128. And let me try changing the image to, let's say, 3. Yeah, I think this looks better now. Yeah, it looks better now. Okay, so I'll run it again. Yeah. Okay, so get started. Yeah. Good, so we'll continue in the next one.